Hi, this is Frank Weidman. I'm a consultant with the Hardin Eden Project, and I'd like to invite you to a special program. We're going to talk today about Extension's role in emergency management, and does Extension have one? The real reason for today's program is to invite you to the personal training at the Lead Lodge in Nebraska City, Nebraska. And that's going to be November 17 and 18, later this year. So we sure like to see several of you there at that training. When we start talking about disasters and the disasters in our community, one that we should already be a part of is the USDA Disaster Assistance Program. On a continuous basis, the Farm Service Agency asks for weekly reports on crop conditions, and they collect that data and send it to the state office. When a significant impact on the crops and livestock occur in a state, they ask for more detail. And at that point, the county FSA office director that is in the counties that are being affected convenes the County Emergency Agriculture Board meeting. And that consists of an extension person, the FSA director, and somebody from the NRCS office. There may be a couple other people that are invited, but that's the main group. The state, they put together a more detailed condition of crops and then submit that to the USDA national office that handles disaster assistance. Not every disaster is declared, so sometimes we have to do things without a disaster declaration. But if a disaster is named, and even if it's not, the Farm Service Agency and other USDA offices, including the Extension Office, have information and programs that can help the ag producers in that community. It talks what we're really talking about is handling the losses in a natural disaster. These losses are usually due to broad area effects like drought and flood, insects and disease, and the stuff that happens to our plants and animals. Now, as far as the homestead is concerned and what happens at home, that is still covered by the regular emergency management community programs. So let's talk about the community program for now. And that's, let's say that we've had some big event that has occurred. Flooding or tornado weather events are our biggest thing that happens. I can think of stuff that's hit the news just lately. The flash flooding that has occurred in central Tennessee. And of course, Ida is on our minds at this week. So those are events that may impact a community and may trigger a request for emergency management help from FEMA. And we need to think about what our role is going to be in responding to those events. Not every event gets a national declaration, and our role is probably even more important in those events that don't get the national attention. You, along with other local officials, are scrambling to help those that are affected. There's nonprofits in there, and what does our local extension office do? What impact will our decision have? are our clients affected by the disaster? That's part of our decision-making process. How will our local funders react to our decision? At some of the events that have happened in my community, only one of which has gotten a national disaster declaration, the flood of '93. Others, like the 4 or 5 tornadoes we've had since then, didn't get that national declaration. So how will our local funders react to our decision? If we're not present in the business of taking care of the emergency, I have seen lots of state legislators show up, people from the office of some federal senators and congressmen. And so, and of course, our local decision makers are all there too. They're the county administration folks and others. Another thing, can we broaden our client base? Extension is one of the best kept secrets. That's the kind of the sick joke that we tell that nobody knows about us. So here's our chance to broaden our clientele base. And and can we make a difference? And my thing is we have to make those decisions. Do we have something to offer? Do we have administrative support? I've been lucky enough in my years in extension to have really, really good support from my immediate supervisor. So that helped me out quite a bit. And if you're going to play with the big boys in emergency management, have you introduced yourself to local emergency management? Well, let's take that first question. Do we have anything to offer? I think we do. We put together programs all the time, educational programs, and our preparedness program is no different. I've taken that a step farther. I'm a CERT trainer, that's Community Emergency Response Team trainer, but in my farm and home safety program, I consider preparedness a good part of that program. We can discuss, we've got folks that can discuss financial planning. Community development folks can talk about group organization. We are the kings of volunteer management, whether we're talking about 4-H leaders or we're talking about groups that help us plan and execute our programs. That's all volunteer management. Enlisting folks to be a part of your program, being part of a tour, helping out with a tour, or helping plan a tour is all part of that, or field days too. We have folks that can talk food safety, stress management, plant, soil, and animal health and management, and recovery safety. And you can probably think of some other things that can play a part here. Missouri's regional emergency management teams are those 3 that I've got listed there. The map shows the districts well, they call them regions, the regions that affect parts of our state. And those groups meet and handle things on a regional basis. And so they are able to help each other out when the time comes and share emergency equipment and expertise. I don't think every one of us needs to be a part of those teams, those committees, but if you've got an interest there, it sure be nice to have an extension presence on those committees. Local committees, these are the ones that I think are most important to us. Those local committees are community organizations active in disasters. You've heard locals talk about a COAD, that's what that is. And those are non-government organizations as well as government agencies that gather together to make plans and be able to discuss strengths and weaknesses in the emergency management plan for the community. Long-term recovery committees are there to are put together during a disaster to help handle any funds and any volunteers or NGO resources that might help the community recover from that disaster. And it's called long-term because in disasters like floods, we can see that committee having something to do for 2 or 3 years. But it's an important group to be a part of. Community Emergency Response Team, that's the CERT team. I'm a strong advocate of it. I can understand if others don't want to do that, but it's a group of volunteers that when the time comes is able to help with light tasks during a disaster recovery. Emergency Management Action Committee, we don't see as many of those as we used to. Locally, it's almost the same thing as a COAD, and so you can kind of think of those two groups as being very similar. And then the last two I've got on the list are those that deal with hazardous materials, and that's something that if you've got a special interest in that, that might be okay. And how do we work with those groups? Well, we got to build a relationship before the event. You can't build a relationship without getting to know the folks. So by participating in one or more of those local groups, we get to know the other players in that group. They get to know us. We build trust. We don't go in there and say, we're from Extension, we've got everything you need to help you. Because there are other groups that have very strong skill sets, and we can share those strengths and opportunities. They need to get to know Extension. And once they get to know Extension, you get to be a welcome partner in this project or in the disaster recovery. How do we know, how do we show serious interest in the emergency management program? Well, everyone that is involved with the emergency management community is required to take a certain number of independent study courses on the FEMA Independent Study website. And we've kind of decided that ISC or ICS 100 and Independent Study 700 are the two base courses that we are going to require Extension folks to take. It takes a little time to do those. Plan to set aside a morning for each one of those classes, or half a day. It may just be a couple hours, but it takes a little time. I compare it to taking the Title IX training that we take every year here in Missouri, and that's it's not impossible to take, and but it's a requirement that's there. Our county commissioners, our county administrators, our county office holders, state legislators, the NGOs, all the folks that are on site in a emergency management control room or have taken these courses. Trainings are recommended based on the level of incidence complexity and the level at which you are involved. So organizations have to adhere to any additional NIM requirements that are passed down through local governing bodies. Okay, the National Incident Management System required training. Like I said, it's IS 700B and IS 100C. If you have any trouble remembering those things, just remember the numbers there. IS 700, IS 100. You can Google those and search for those on the web, and it'll take you right to those. I really recommend that IS 200 and IS 800 are a good idea, and I think you'll be appreciated a little bit more if you've got those under your belt as well. The benefit of going to the FEMA site is that all of those, the records of those courses are kept there, and the officials of your state emergency management program can access your records off of the FEMA site. Now that means that you have to get a student ID number. And that identification number is available at FEMA SID, student ID, FEMA SID. So you can Google that as well, and you can't really take the courses until you get that FEMA SID. And the other thing is that our Missouri emergency management program requires the FEMA SID to take any of their courses as well. Okay. Here's the topics that are planned for that Nebraska City training: incident command system and extension. These are kind of broad topics that we'll talk to. The National Flood Insurance Program, disaster declarations. What makes up a disaster declaration? What does it take? And emergency disaster incidents with no formal declaration. Like I said, you'll have a lot more of those than you do of the declared disasters, because there's a magic dollar impact that is necessary to make the federal disaster declaration. So we'd sure like to see you at the Lead Lodge in Nebraska City, November 17 and 18, later this year. Here's a quick rundown of the state and FEMA training sites. If you want to check those out, that one at the bottom is the training at FEMA. The IS stands for Independent Study. And so if you wanted to be a part of this training event, you will need to take that course 100 and 700. And there's my contact information. If you have any questions, we will entertain questions at this time.